A very good morning to you. Welcome to the Tuesday edition of the show. It promises to be exciting as always. I'm Yemi Adebayo.
And I'm Cecilia Omogbe, and we're starting with big news this morning. It's a new chapter and a new start for Super Eagles goalkeeper Maduka Okoye. He has joined Spectre Club for another round of goalkeeping.
Yeah, an upgrade, if you must say, and congratulations to the Nigerian goalkeeper. Hopefully, he will be able to make giant strides and, of course, get to the top in the goalkeeping job. All right, let's move on the show and talk about what happened yesterday. A missed chance for Manchester United just when a lot of the football fans across the globe thought Manchester United would take advantage of their rivals losing. And at some point, they were very close to climbing to the third position on the league table, but it was so close, but yet so far. Missed opportunity for Manchester United. All right, so we move on from there and go to the NBA and report another positive test for COVID-19. This time is Russell Westbrook, the Houston Rockets star, has tested positive ahead of the NBA restart scheduled for July 30 in Orlando. Just when his teammates were about to depart, he just discovered that he has tested positive and he confirmed it on social media.
Yeah, it's not a good one for Russell Westbrook, especially when you know that he's a top star for Houston Rockets. Okay, and that's what we're starting off the show with this morning, talking about Russell Westbrook testing positive for coronavirus. That's one of the NBA players that tested positive so far. And remember when the NBA commissioner was saying that there's a hole in the bubble. So if you are having things like this coming in, well, it's 31st is too far. So let's not get ahead of ourselves. But he is one of those players you will really know that the team is going to miss. That's if it doesn't recover before the season starts, July 31st.
Yeah, the only difference in Russell's case
is
that it sounds upbeat. Because even from his statement, he says, look, I'm waiting to get a second test. Hopefully when I get the clearance, I'm going to join. Yeah. Unlike some other guys who've just tested and they say, look, I'm ruling myself out. I'm not going. Don't expect to see me in Orlando.
Well, he doesn't have any symptoms, nothing at all.
So, but for us, it's, look, I'm fine, I'm good. I tested positive. I'm in quarantine. I'm following all the safety protocols, all the guidelines, all the things that I'm supposed to be doing at this moment. But at some point, I expect to get the all clear and join my teammate. I think that's the difference between some of the things I've heard in times past and the Russell case.
Yeah, and this is his statement he released on his social media account, saying that he's currently quarantined, and of course he tested positive, admitted he tested positive for the virus, and he's going to rejoin his team, you know, before the season starts. That's hopefully, I mean, just knowing that he has, he's averaging at 27.5 points per game this season, and Rockets are currently the 6th seed in the Western Conference with 40-24 records. So if he's not part of that team, well, I think the team might just suffer, because 22 teams started arriving last week in Orlando, and of course, they will be housed in a quarantine bubble to train ahead of the scheduled restart July 30th. And for Houston Rockets, is one of those teams actually vying for. We'll see.
I would say how it's going to go. Adam Silver under a lot of pressure. A lot of players. Florida is turning to be an epicenter, what New York was at some point. Yeah. A lot of people are saying, should they not reconsider? But then again, like you said, it's a bubble. And if the bubble doesn't burst, if there's no leak, maybe they can get away with it as long as the bubble is well protected. Yes. We'll see how far we can go from that one. But like I said earlier, anytime we're talking about sports and the United States, it's either we're talking about somebody testing positive or a major sporting event canceled, all because of the health crisis. All right, let's come to Africa, Cecilia. Let's quickly talk about tennis and talk about all of these happening around COVID-19 and some other issues. The African Table Tennis Federation have officially confirmed the postponement of this year's ITTF Africa Senior Championships, which serves as the continental qualification for the World Championship. It has been shifted to 2021. And those guys in your picture, Arnold Kodri and Meshref, will have to wait till next year to defend their titles.
That's the way it is, man. It's all about COVID-19, and when it started happening, and you know that most of this championship obviously was going to be cancelled. According to ATTF President Khalid El Saleh, he says that this is simply because in the current circumstances surrounding the whole world, that's the reason they're making these announcements. They actually concluded this after an online meeting to discuss the case of the ATF calendar for 2020, which had been suspended earlier, for further notice. So they said they're currently monitoring the global and continental situation day by day to come back to the more decisions that will arrive. And one of the decisions is actually the cancellation of this one. Also, the 2020 ITTF African Youth Juniors and Cadet Championships that will be held in Madagascar, of course, cancelled. Then you have the Senior Championship WTC qualification to be held earlier this year, of course, have been postponed to next year, 2021, in Cameroon. So exact dates and all that will also be given after they've checked out their calendar and see what it is. Remember, we have the president of Table Tennis Federation of Nigeria when he was saying that they themselves can't even put, pen to paper and say these are the dates of most of the events we'll be organizing, because we're also looking at the ITTF calendar, of course, the ATTF calendar, and then you now look at the NTTF calendar to also know how they can actually put their own tournaments and schedules together. So there's a whole lot. Nigeria, Egypt, defending champions in the teams event. So
we have to wait.
Yeah.
All right.
2021.
Okay, so we have to wait. Fingers crossed. Hopefully, before the end of this year, all of this will be behind us, and 2021 will not see the kind of disruption we have seen in sports. Hopefully, it will not enter into 2021. Let's quickly bring you into all that we're doing today. We want to let you be part of this show. Of course, if you're just joining us for the first time, let's just show you how to be a part of this show. That's it right there. That's how you can be. You can tweet at channels_sports. That's how you get your views. Put across your views and let your voice be heard across the globe. You can also send us a mail sports this morning at channelstv.com. Those are the issues we're talking about. Well, we've talked a lot already, and there's still more to talk about. We told you about Maduka Okoye. Of course, we also be talking about what happened yesterday at Old Trafford. There's still a lot for you. All right, let's link up with our man. Initially should have been here with us in the studio, but couldn't make it down. But that's not stopping us this morning. It's going to join us via Skype. Bada Akitoday Johnson joins us now. Bada, it's good to have you join us this morning.
Morning, guys. Always a pleasure to be on the show, whether physically or virtually. Always the same experience. Great pleasure.
All right. Thanks for joining us. All right, let me just, yesterday we heard the news about Maduka Okoye and, of course, his move to the Dutch league. No matter what you want to say about the guy, about his abilities, that divides opinion. But you have to agree that this is a good move for the young lad.
Absolutely. Maduka Okoye has divided opinion because of the circumstances surrounding his invitation to the national team at a time when he was playing in the lower rungs of German football. It didn't seem like it was merited. It didn't seem like we couldn't have found maybe goalkeepers within the local league who could have played at the time. It seemed like he was enjoying some kind of privilege because maybe he was born abroad. But if there's one thing I give to the guy, it is his sheer determination and will to succeed. And that has landed him this opportunity at a bigger platform, on a bigger pedestal, where he can show the world what he's truly got. We saw a cameo of him in that friendly game, I think, against Brazil for the Super Eagles, where I must admit, he did show that he's got the ingredients to be a great goalkeeper in the future, maybe not now already. He's got the stature, he's got the reflex. He looks like he can command his box. He looks to me like a goalkeeper who can grow into a real talent in that role. And going to the Dutch league, where the likes of Aloy Agu, Peter Rufai have played in the past and made their mark, just fills me with some sense of nostalgia that we can have this young man grow into an accomplished goalkeeper playing regularly, getting, tested quite frequently in a league where defending is not their forte. The attacking football they play in Holland means that usually they have high scoring games. So you have more incidences or more, opportunities for a goalkeeper to get tested. And so I believe that this move will serve his career very well, and the Nigerian national team in the long term will benefit because he's a very young man, and one whose age is not in doubt for obvious reasons. And we can look forward to a future of profiting from an upward trajectory for his career.
Just mentioned that the Dutch league, usually they're not known for, defensive measures, attack, attack, attack. That's all they do. But if you check his record at Düsseldorf, when he had 14 games, he conceded 26. I mean, and if you're having defense that are not so covered up, is he not going to be in trouble in that league?
Yeah, he'll be in trouble, but it's also an opportunity for him to develop his talent. A goalkeeper facing more shots than usual is not a reflection of his abilities. If you remember in the Premier League this season, at some point, for the most part actually, Arsenal's goalkeeper Brendan Leno had faced the most number of shots, and that's because the Arsenal defense was just all over the place.
Yes.
So you can't blame him for conceding goals, except where you can establish that those goals were due to his errors. If you don't have a good defense in front of you, you will face, an unbelievable number of shots, and some of them will go in. I just believe that for him to have made this move, the new club would have considered some of those clips, some of those matches. Of course, they would have looked at them very intently, and they would have found that this guy does have potential. He put in a different environment, shielded by better defense. His numbers would look much respectable.
Okay, all right. So let me take you to England now, and I want to talk about what a lot of people have called a missed opportunity. I just want to talk about what do you think benefits? What do you think benefited more from what happened yesterday between Manchester United and Southampton? Just want to get a quick take. There's a lot to talk about.
I think primarily Leicester City, because had United gone fourth, it would have been maybe done and dusted. If you look at the running, the last 3 games for the 3 clubs, United have the slightly better set of fixtures in terms of the quality of opposition that they play. So I feel like had United won that game and gained those 2 points that they missed, United would have been nailed on to finish in one of those places behind City and Liverpool. And that would have meant should Chelsea beat Leicester, Leicester's hopes would have been over, and it would have been the most heartbreaking way to finish what started as a very promising season. It might still be heartbreaking for them at the end of the day, but I think the biggest benefactors were Leicester and then Chelsea, because what that means now is Chelsea's 3-0 loss to Sheffield pales into insignificance, or doesn't really have the impact that it could have had. Had United won, like I said, United would have been odds-on favourite to finish third, meaning Chelsea and Leicester would have been locked in a battle for the final Champions League place, which would have maybe gone down to that game between the two of them. Remember, I think Chelsea still play Liverpool as well, so Chelsea have the harder games coming up. So really, I think the biggest benefactors in that particular order were Leicester and Chelsea.
Okay, all right. So that's it on that one. So yesterday, something big happened in England, talking about what a lot of people have been waiting for, talking about the Manchester City appeal over their ban. And of course, that has been laid to rest now. They're going to be in the Champions League. Your thoughts on that?
So first off, I think that I have never been a fan of this financial fair play thing. I think that it's some sort of instrument that the big clubs, the establishment of European football, have put in place to preserve their predominance or preeminence in the game. Because think about it, Yemi, how do you, for instance, expect a club like Newcastle, maybe coming into new money, how do you expect them to bridge the gap that has been established over the years between themselves and the elite? If they don't spend big in the market, if you have a rich owner who is injecting equity funding the club should be at liberty to use that in the transfer market to significantly bridge the gap between themselves and the rest. If financial fair play had been followed to the letter, clubs like Chelsea wouldn't be what they are today. I mean, Chelsea would have run foul of financial fair play rules in those years that they were splashing the cash, buying the rights of Sean Wright-Phillips and putting them on the bench for 20 million plus back in the day. Chelsea was buying everything in sight back in the day. And that's the only way that, modest clubs coming into new money can really, really breach the gap between themselves and the established clubs. In Spain, for instance, where Real Madrid and Barcelona have always been the big guns. Tell me, how does an Athletic Bilbao or an Osasuna or Mallorca ever, would bridge that gap if they come into new money and are not able to spend those monies in the transfer market? So I think it's hypocritical, to be honest. My thoughts are that City would have been harshly punished had they, had that ban been upheld, to throw them out of European competition for 2 years, when the likes of Real Madrid in recent times have breached rules, maybe not fair play rules. They've been guilty of, of certain improprieties. Barcelona recently just got left off the hook, but with a slap on the wrist for the impropriety in the signing of Neymar. And you can go on and on. All those clubs are enmeshed in one impropriety or the other. So I'm not, saying we should entrench illegality in football, but some of these rules are just nonsensical as far as I'm concerned. And where it was proven by a group of independent lawyers that Manchester City haven't exactly breached financial fair play rules, they haven't disguised equity funding as sponsorship money, as it was claimed. I know who to trust, UEFA or the lawyers in Switzerland. I go with the lawyers in Switzerland, and so I'm relieved in a bit of way that a fantastic club side like City, one of the best footballing sides in the world, wouldn't be denied the opportunity of showcasing their abilities on the pitch for 2 seasons in the most elite of club competitions.
All right. But let me just let you listen to what some of the fans have to say. Then, of course, you tell me some of the fans from Manchester City, some from other clubs, they had their perspectives on the issue. I don't know about you. Some on the other side feel aggrieved.
Yeah, unexpectedly so. For clubs that would have benefited had City been thrown out, you can expect that they'll be disappointed. If City's ban was upheld, it would have meant freeing up an additional Champions League place, and the likes of Chelsea, United, Leicester, maybe even Wolves would have been able to profit from that. And obviously, they would have been disappointed. But my perspective or my position on the issue is quite clear. I'm not a fan of financial fair play. I think it's super hypocritical. The likes of United, the likes of Arsenal, the likes of Chelsea in England, strictly speaking, have over the years benefited from just being able to spend more in the transfer market than other people. And to want to prevent other people from doing that, it doesn't just make sense. Newcastle, Everton, Southampton, clubs like that should be able to spend as they wish in the transfer market when they do come into new money. But having to hold their hands from doing so, or to shackle them from doing so, makes no sense to me. And in this specific case, Manchester City haven't been found guilty of any wrongdoing. If the fine that has been imposed, a £10 million fine, was for not cooperating with UEFA for the investigations to happen. And City's defense for that was that this investigation was premised on hacked emails, emails that the person who did the hacking, as we speak, is on house arrest for in Portugal. And I'm not sure that City would have twisted Portuguese laws into getting that guy placed under house arrest if he hadn't committed a crime. And what the lawyers in Switzerland have said is that when those emails were put in proper context, they suddenly meant something different. So for me, I'm not a lawyer. I think that this Court of Arbitration for Sport has the competence to have scrutinized and done all due diligence required to come up with a sound judgment or ruling in this case. And what they have said is what I've decided to go with.
Okay, but do you think UEFA will definitely be under a whole lot of pressure to actually review the FFP because of this particular overturn of Manchester City's case?
Absolutely. Like again, I repeat, I think it's a nonsensical rule. I think it's hypocritical, and the more they ban clubs and those bans get overturned, the more nonsensical and ridiculous the ruling looks, and it continue to call it into question. And over time, they may scrap it all, altogether, because I mean, I don't see the purpose that it serves, to be honest. Think about it. PSG, before they came into new money, were just there or thereabouts. I couldn't remember them winning any league title because they just couldn't compete in the transfer market with the establishment in France. Tell me how many Leicester kind stories have we recorded in football across Europe, especially in the major leagues? Juventus has been winning back-to-back league titles in Italy. Primarily because the other clubs just haven't been able to compete similarly in the transfer market in the last how many years? The Milans and the Inters of this world, just even though they can spend, don't have the same kind of deep pockets as Juventus. And don't forget, these clubs already established a significant sort of head start over the rest. So to bridge that, what miracle are you going to do? Because these clubs, established clubs, these elite clubs are not standing still. They're still spending money. So for every dollar that an Everton can spend, a United, a Chelsea, a City would always be able to spend significantly higher. So if they can't spend above and beyond because they've come into new money, they are not going to be able to bridge that gap. And that in itself is not fair. So you can't say something is fair play when in itself what it establishes is some kind of unfairness to protect the preeminence of certain elite clubs.
All right, so that's it. But we're about to go on a break, but quickly, your thoughts on what Lampard has to say.
So, I mean, whether they like to admit it or not, they all were hoping that City's ban will be upheld and that they will be able to get an additional slot for the Champions League available. That's been obliterated now. They've got to go do the business on the pitch. If you must qualify for the elite competition in Europe, you have to do it by winning matches on the pitch, not hoping that a misfortune befalls a rival. The misfortune hasn't happened. City would continue to play in Europe. They have earned being in Europe for next season by finishing second. They're 10 points clear of third place, so they can't be caught. They've established they'll be in Europe next season, and they may even win this season's UEFA Champions League. They have a leg in the quarterfinals, haven't won at the Bernabeu. So City is undoubtedly one of the world's best football teams, and it'll be a tragedy, or it would have been a tragedy, had they been thrown out for 2 years from the UEFA Champions League, as far as I was concerned.
Okay, talking about Chelsea and Lampard doing the business on the field, with Manchester United actually missing the opportunity to go to third spot. They remain fifth despite all they've done over this season, because people have been saying that if the league has started in January, of course, United will be in front because they've had about 27 points since January till now compared to other teams. Now, Chelsea will be facing Norwich City today. Norwich, of course, relegated already. What are the chances of Chelsea actually taking opportunity and getting into the third spot? I mean, retaining their third position and also extending their league there.
I think that if they don't beat Norwich, then they don't deserve to be in the Champions League. Chelsea has had a yo-yo season, to be honest. They're blowing hot this moment, they're blowing cold the next moment. Lost an incredible number of games at home. This season, they lost about 9 home matches. For a team that wants to play in European competition, that's not good enough. But they've also had some fantastic victories and good runs. I mean, case in point, last weekend, they lost quite surprisingly and scandalously to Sheffield by 3-0. They didn't look anything we saw against Manchester City when they were absolutely brilliant and actually beat City. So I think they should beat Norwich. But again, remember, like you said, Norwich are relegated. They may be playing with the handbrakes off, the pressure off. So Chelsea would have to play well to get that victory. But if they do play well, they will not only beat Norwich, they'll beat them very well.
All right, we need to go on a break now, but I will still have you on the show after we come back from this break. Welcome back. We still have Bada with us on the program. But then we're done with the English Premier League. We're going to go to South Africa right now. What's happening? All other leagues are resuming. And, of course, South Africa is taking a cue. But what they want to do is different from what other leagues have done across Europe. That is, they're also going to go into a bubble, like what the NBA have done. But then there are controversies surrounding this particular situation. The PSL, that's the soccer, Premium Soccer League, that's the South African League, how it's called. Orlando Boss has been talking about, their plans to resume. They already have the plans. They submitted to the football governing body of South Africa, that's SAFA. But then it's like there's a little bit of trouble in there. But before we ask you this question, let's go to Okoza, what they have to say, confirming the resumption of the league later this month. Now, that's the plans for the resumption. But then he says they were actually in a meeting with SAFA. And SAFA came up with, after that meeting, they were saying that the health of the players actually more paramount than resumption of the league. But what do you make of this?
I'm very concerned for the South Africans wanting to restart their league for the simple reason that South Africa has been hit badly by COVID-19, much harder than the rest of Africa. In fact, I think in terms of infections, they're third in the world behind Brazil and Russia, I think. And so for a country that is reimposing lockdown, I'm wondering why they want to do this. But then I also understand that their league is quite different from ours in that it is fully sponsored and there are commercial pressures here and there. But if you look at the COVID-19 situation or picture in South Africa, it doesn't support the sort of experiment that they want to do. But they seem to have the protocols quite well laid out. They say they would have a first set of testing 48 hours before they go into the bubble. And then afterwards, they'll have another testing. But if you look at how this COVID-19 testing has gone in the Premier League, where I think in the last round of testing, one player tested positive. Other times, they have 100% negative return of results. Once you have players going in and out and interacting with society, interacting with family and friends, even if you put them in a hotel, they're going to be there for how long? Are you going to restrict them from receiving visitors? Or are you going to also test their visitors? There's a whole lot of logistics around implementing a safe, return for the South African League that I just don't see how all of that becomes necessary at this critical period in time when the country is grappling with the devastating impact of COVID-19. South Africa shouldn't be thinking football at this point in time, and that's my opinion.
Now, the reasons why South Africans are actually worried, and even SAFA, is simply because the place where they want to have the bubble, which is Gauteng, happens to be the epicenter of the COVID-19. So you know why people are actually worried and thinking, how do we solve this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of valid reasons to be worried, but we'll see whether or not they can pull it off. But we just have to, let's just allow you have a last word on this. As we go, we're pressed for time, really, but do you think they can pull it off?
Well, I work for a company that has its Africa headquarters in South Africa. I just got off a call with the South Africa team before I got on this. Gauteng is like Cecilia said, the epicenter. That's where you want to go have this competition. And I trust South Africans when it comes to organization and discipline and putting things together and being able to pull them off. But I just worry. I have concerns where life is concerned. They shouldn't be taking such a significant risk.
All right.
But then again, they seem set. They seem ready to go, and we'll wait and see.
All right. But I just want to thank you for your time, your insights, and your input on the show. Thank you very much.
Always a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All right, Cecilia. Time flies by when you're having fun. We're pressed for time. But let's see if we can just put just a paper on the screen as we prepare to leave the studio. Let's see if we can have complete sports. We have 3 papers, but let's just see complete sports. That's the best we can do because we're pressed for time. And there you have it. Chukwueze bags assist in Villarreal loss. Napoli move is a possibility for Osimhen, and a whole lot of other interesting story. Oyekuru, I want to prove myself at Monaco. We also have Sporting Live and Soccer Sporting Sun, but we can't take them because we're pressed for time. That's how we wrap up the show today. Hope that you enjoyed what we've been able to bring to you. We'll do this again tomorrow. I'm Adebayo. Bye-bye now.
And I'm Cecilia Mogbe. Thanks for watching.